Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Korman Productions, here to introduce something that I hope will be a regular feature, titled Movies I Adore. Since this is Black History Month, I figured I would start with Marshall. The 2017 legal drama starring Chadwick Boseman, the late Chadwick Boseman, he died last year, sadly, Josh Gad, and This Is Us star Sterling K. Brown, which is the other reason I decided to start with this movie. Since I regularly talk about Sterling K. Brown when I do my videos on This Is Us. The movie's description reads as follows. Young Thurgood Marshall faces one of his greatest challenges while working as a lawyer for the NAACP. Marshall travels to conservative Connecticut when wealthy socialite Eleanor Strubbing accuses black chauffeur Joseph Spell of sexual assault and attempted murder. He soon teams up with Sam Friedman, a local Jewish lawyer who's never handled a criminal case. Together, the two men build a defense while contending with racist and anti-Semitic views from those who deem Spell to be guilty. The movie was directed by Reginald Hudwin and co-stars other notable actors, Kate Hudson as Eleanor Strubbing, and James Cromwell as the judge. The movie was based on a real story and a real case, Connecticut versus Joseph Spell. Connecticut being my home state, which is another reason, and probably the final one, that I am doing this movie, on top of the fact that I absolutely adore this movie. Thurgood Marshall went on to eventually be the first black Supreme Court Justice. The Wikipedia entry for this movie reads as follows under the plot section. In April 1941, Thurgood Marshall is an NAACP lawyer traveling the country defending people of color who are wrongly accused of crimes because of racial prejudice. Upon his return to New York office, he is sent to Bridgeport, Connecticut to defend Joseph Spell, a chauffeur accused of rape by his white employer, Eleanor Strubbing, in a case that has gripped the newspapers. In Bridgeport, insurance lawyer Sam Friedman is assigned by his brother to get Marshall admitted to the local bar against his will. At the hearing, Judge Foster, a friend of the father of prosecutor Warren Willis, agrees to admit Marshall, but forbids Marshall from speaking during the trial, forcing Friedman to be Spell's lead counsel. Marshall must guide Friedman through notes, such as when he advises Friedman to allow a woman of Southern white descent into the jury because of her assertive and questioning personality. As I already said, the performances throughout the movie are universally excellent. I expected Chadwick Boseman to be good because he always is. You might know Chadwick Boseman, the late Chadwick Boseman, from the Black Panther series. I was also not very surprised by Sterling K. Brown's performance being very good. He doesn't get a whole lot to do in the movie, but when he gets to be on trial, his performance is a doozy. It's exceptionally great. And James Cromwell is James Cromwell. I mean, that man is incapable of giving a bad performance. Who did surprise me, on the other hand, was Josh Gad. Josh Gad is known more for his comic roles, and honestly, I didn't think I would ever see him in a role that I could take him seriously in. You know him from movies like Pixel, or as the snowman in Frozen. Named Olaf, if you were not familiar with those two movies. To be fair, I had seen him in at least one other movie where he was really good in Thanks for Sharing, the 2012 movie starring Mark Ruffalo and Gwyneth Paltrow. But as I said, I was just blown away by his performance in this movie. I really wasn't expecting it to be quite this good. Now, as with any movie set during a historical event, it obviously is not 100% faithful to what actually happened. On the website History vs. Hollywood, which there will be a link for in the video's description, just if you're interested in seeing more of what they have to say after watching the movie, the site asks the question, does the movie correctly portray attorney Sam Friedman? And according to them, no. At least not according to Sam's nephew, Roger Friedman, a movie critic of over 25 years. Almost not a word of my great uncle's depiction in the movie is accurate, writes Roger Friedman. He says that his uncle's depiction as being a novice trial lawyer who was insecure without Thurgood Marshall's presence is completely false. It was Sam Friedman who was the lead and argued the case, while Marshall, who was sent as a consultant, took notes. This is well documented and also evidenced by the fact that Marshall is barely mentioned in press coverage of the trial. Roger calls Sam's portrayal of being a person of no backup plan who feared for his life laughable. By that point, Sam had already been practicing law for 14 years, longer than Marshall, and had a stellar reputation as a trial lawyer. It would have not been uncommon for him to take such a case, as he was a champion against such injustices throughout his career. Sam was the architect of the case, not Marshall. Roger says that the moment in the movie that is most absurd is when Sam, Josh Gad, tells Thurgood Marshall, played by Chadwick Boseman, that he can't afford to lose the case, to which Marshall responds twice, "F you, Sam Friedman." Roger says that it is unimaginable that Marshall, a man who was highly intelligent and educated, would ever address Sam that way. He said that his family cringed when they heard it as a private screening. In addition, Roger says that Josh Gad was miscast as Sam, a point that is evident in both physical appearance and in reading interviews with the real Sam Friedman. On that last point, I obviously disagree. I thought Josh Gad was fine in the role. As for the rest of what he said, I wasn't there, so I couldn't really tell you. It doesn't really matter to me whether Josh Gad matched up with the real Sam Friedman physically. You shouldn't really go into a movie thinking that everything you see is going to be how it really was, because changes will definitely be made for whatever reason. I think these type of movies are good for sparking conversation, as well as getting people interested in historical events, which they themselves can then look up and see how things perhaps really happened, which is what I have done. So accurate or not, and it seems largely faithful, obviously with some embellishments and some changes, I still love the movie. And I think you should check it out, as well as checking in to the real events that actually happened. Go and check out the movie. I believe it can currently be seen on Netflix. It'll be well worth your time. If you like this video and enjoy my content in general and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Korman Productions. You can join my Korman Productions Facebook group. You can buy something from the Korman Productions store on Zazzle. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to my channel. This is Dave from Korman Productions, signing off.